Hey everybody. Everybody hear me okay? All right, this is a bit like that silent disco thing, and I apologize that I am not a disco artist, but I am going to teach you a thing or two about beautiful and meaningful data, and it's a topic I'm super passionate about. So first, let's just start with a piece of art. So this is a photograph that I actually first saw in Wired magazine. It's taken by Xavi Bao, and it's of a rural village in Spain. And these are actually birds in motion. And it's a really stirring picture. I mean, it really stops you in your tracks when you see it. And he's got this huge series of photos of birds in motion and the patterns that they make in the sky. And this is data. This is all generating data. It really makes you stop and pause and look at it and ask what's happening here and how did he actually achieve this. And there's a whole technique behind it, so I won't go into that detail, but it's really, really cool. Let me tell you a bit about my journey to beautiful and meaningful data. So I've been on this journey for a long time as an entrepreneur. I actually started my first business when I was 24. I'm 47 now. And one of my first businesses was a company called Body Matrix. And this company was an e-commerce company back when e-commerce was really nascent. We sold sports nutrition products, things like power bars and the like. And through the use of data, one of the things that we pioneered was capturing data about all of our customers and what they were doing on the site, what products they'd pick up and didn't buy. And we were able to double our conversion ratio just by understanding what was happening. And I thought that was pretty novel. I was an e-commerce pioneer. But I really didn't know how novel until I went to go meet with people like CD Now and Amazon. And CD Now at that point in time, this is back in 1998, was as big as Amazon. They sold CDs online, as you would guess. Nobody really uses those anymore. But it was really stirring that I walked in those companies and they didn't have even the analytics that I had on my little bitty e-commerce site. I'd grown up as a programmer, so I was able to create that. And I thought, eureka, this is the big idea. If they don't have this data that I have, how are they going to run this online business? Everything's masked by a browser. So I started a company called Core Metrics, which the most exciting things about Core Metrics were customers like Eddie Bauer using us and saying, you know, we used to spend every Monday morning 4 hours debating what goes on the hero image on our homepage. And we were debating this because we thought it really mattered. You know, we're a cataloger. We came from that heritage. And when you have a beautiful hero image on the catalog cover, people pick it up off the coffee table. But we found out through the use of Core Metrics that only 5% of people ever clicked on that on our website and less than 2% bought. So we just stopped having the 4-hour meeting every Monday. And I heard story after story like that at Walmart and Best Buy and the Home Depot as Core Metrics grew. We eventually had an amazing exit to IBM where they bought the company for around $300 million. And we really became a global leader in web analytics. And it really taught me that data is liberating. And that took me to my next journey, which was Bazaar Voice. Bazaar Voice became a very large company. It's in 40 international languages today. It had a very successful IPO, and it's responsible for most of the customer reviews you see when you're shopping online. So if you're at Walmart or the Home Depot or Expedia or OpenTable and you're reading customer reviews, you're actually using the software that me and an incredible team created. And the data coming out of that was so profound. I mean, you literally would find out exactly why a product had high returns for the first time in history. You'd find out why it's flying off the shelves. You'd find out how to improve a product. Like we found 4-star reviews were the most valuable because people would say, here's exactly what you need to do to make it 5-star. Now they're talking to each other. It's word of mouth online, but they would say, I would have rated this 5-star if they only made it in green or had this different accessory offered with it or changed the design in this way. And we would flow back that type of data from Walmart to people like Samsung and others that were really responsible for improving those products. And so now that's taken me to data.world. And this is really the meta thematic of my career. It's why I'm so passionate about it, because I've seen how data can transform behavior when people have access to it. And unfortunately, we still live in this world which is incredibly siloed when it comes to data. We actually started out at Data.World as an open data community, and we grew around the same pace as GitHub grew. It's actually become the world's largest collaborative data community and catalog, and that we based our enterprise solutions on, which I'm primarily today going to be talking about our enterprise solutions. But many people probably in this room use Data.World to source data. There's more data sets on Data.World than any place in the world, and Tableau, in fact, was one of our first partners. So let's just first talk about what is beautiful data. I mean, you guys were probably at IronViz yesterday, so you know that there are many beautiful charts and graphs that probably you in this room have produced for your companies, and data that really stops you in your tracks. One of the things that I was a huge fan of early on was Edward Tufte's work. Has anybody, raise your hand if you're an Edward Tufte fan. He had amazing books. If you don't own these books, like buy his series. There's 3 books that show you how beautiful data can be in an era where we didn't have Tableau, when people were literally just doing all of this on paper, and how it really inspires you to make beautiful, very data-rich graphics that are very actionable. And you've seen this here, you've seen this all the time. I mean, obviously it's led to Tableau being bought for $16.7 billion. That's a pretty amazing price tag that Salesforce paid. And we're huge Tableau fans. But this data is stuff that really could move an entire company to change course. The problem is that data is really hard to find inside most companies, and it's buried in lots of silos. So once you get to this level of beauty, the reality was there was a lot of pain that it took to actually get to that point. So let's talk a little bit about that pain. In a recent study that Forrester did, they found that the average kind of enterprise level organization, think of it as like Fortune 500, Global 2000 type companies, they have an average number of 7 data lakes. And most of these data lake projects actually fail. And what happens is that people decide, like, let's put all this data into a data lake, whether it's Hadoop or whatever else it is, and it pretty quickly just becomes another silo inside the company, and what people often refer to as a data swamp. Then you go into these companies and you see all of these tools that people are using, and everybody has their favorite tools. People here at this conference, it's primarily going to be Tableau. There's also people that are really into Microsoft Power BI and Google Data Studio, but there's so many different tools that people use to collect data, to analyze data, to access data, and there's nothing that's been brought along that really unifies all of these together in something that's very usable inside of a company that everybody can kind of grok. So what does this lead to? It leads to yet more silos. It leads to more disconnectedness between people, which people are the reason that we collect data in the first place. We're trying to motivate people. We're trying to motivate people in our businesses to make decisions, similar to how Eddie Bauer really just stopped having those 4-hour meetings every Monday. And I'm sure you have epiphanies like that have occurred in your company when you've provided data that's beautiful, that maybe was painstakingly produced, but really moves people to change behavior. And that's the win, right? That's what it's all about. The reality is that this is a quote from a person we're big fans of. We're mixed panel customers at Data.World. We like mixed panel a lot, but this is really sad. I mean, I've been doing this, I've been helping companies create data-driven cultures for 23 years now. And this is a recent quote from the CEO of Mixpanel that unfortunately most of the world still is going to make decisions based on guessing or using gut instinct. And gut instinct can really get you in trouble. That was the problem with Eddie Bauer. They thought, this is my gut. I've been in catalog business for a long time. This is how it works. And it was different online. It was really different online. And it's pretty sad that this is still the state of affairs. We can do much, much better as human beings. So let's talk about the problem here. Ultimately in companies, data tends to be very hard to find, understand, and use because it's meaningless to the people that actually have the business questions. It tends to be very buried and backroomed by DBAs and the like, and this is a real problem inside of companies. It's almost like if you bought an IKEA product and you want to put it together at home, but you didn't have the manual. It would be terribly difficult and really frustrating, and that unfortunately is what it's like in most of the world today when it comes to working with data. Let me give you a simple example of this super basic example that I've seen in numerous e-commerce companies over my career. So let's just say you want to ask a simple question. You're trying to decide whether or not you offer free shipping, for example, and compete with Amazon on that axis. And you just want to know how many orders did we place last month. There should just be one number for that, right? But this shows you 1/8 of an actual schema from an e-commerce company, and all those red boxes are places where it references orders. And the primary person that understands this schema is, of course, the DBA. And no business user is ever going to be able to figure out how to access this. So they're really going to be very dependent on IT from the beginning of just answering something super, super simple, like how many orders did we have? And the sad thing here is that you need to be like a data scientist or DBA to even get to the most basics. And let's talk about how this actually then plays out. How do you actually get answers? So let's say you're the business user and you want to get access to how many orders were placed. You go through IT. IT ultimately is going to queue that request and fulfill it maybe by a data architect who's going to pull from all these disparate systems. The data warehouse, maybe some from Salesforce, maybe some from Excel. And ultimately, they're going to compile the data back into something like a CSV. And that CSV will go back to the business user. By the way, these CSVs for data that's bought today, that people buy from data brokers, the primary delivery mechanism in 2019 are CSV files and FTP servers. In 2019, in the networked age. So the CSV is ultimately going to go back to the business user, and they're going to then plug it in to something, hopefully get close to their answer, but they often have to repeat this cycle over and over again. And why does this matter? Because it's just leading to a massive waste of efficiency inside companies. It shouldn't be this easy. And the primary people that you guys are trying to hire are people that grew up on Wikipedia, and they grew up on Google. They grew up in places where they could get instant access to their answers. And they go inside these companies, and data is so buried, it's so hard to get access to. It's a really kind of sad situation that causes a lot of people to churn out of those companies and go to places like Airbnb, for example, which the 5th employee at Airbnb was a data scientist, and they built the company from the beginning the right way to allow people to easily access data. So finally, you get some of the data back, and you get different answers. The e-commerce group, e-commerce data says you have around 118,000 orders. The shipping group says you have around 114,000, and finance says you have around 116,000. And this is a big problem because what is the ultimate source of truth? And the reason that you're getting these different answers is because they're counting the order differently. Some are counting based on when the credit card was charged, others are counting on when the product was actually shipped, and there's many things that can go wrong along the way. And this has led to CEOs saying that they're really concerned about the integrity of the data that they're used to make decisions. So if you're trying to make a decision that's really a bet the company type decision on whether or not to offer something like free shipping to compete with Amazon, it's a big problem if you don't trust the integrity of your data. This is a bet the company type of move, and it literally could be whether or not you succeed or fail as a business. So how do we think about that, and why are we even in business? Like, why did we do this? This is my 6th business as a startup. Like, why did I go back into the arena after such successful exits? I mean, Bizarre Voice was over $1 billion outcome for us, and it was amazing. It's because we really think that this is a problem that fundamentally needs to be solved in the world. The world has some pretty big problems, from cancer to climate change, and part of those are going to be people coming together, organized around data, and being able to rapidly iterate around it. And addressing the challenges inside of the companies you all work for, it's really going to require not just the culture and the people, but it's also going to require a technology solution, but not one that just creates another silo inside of the company, like yet another data lake that maybe is going to magically solve all of your problems. Our mission statement at Data.World is to build the most meaningful, collaborative, and abundant data resource in the world. This is something that'll be true for us 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 30 years from now. This is an ever-reaching goal, but we are already on the public data side the world's largest repository of collaborative data sets, which is kind of incredible to say, because we're only 4 years old. And we've been doing extremely well on the enterprise side because we've taken that know-how from seeing how the world collaborates with data and applied it inside of the Fortune 500 type companies that we work with. Our shared goal for those companies is to really empower everybody in the company with clarity, access, and speed when it comes to accessing data and working with data. And you may be asking, well, how do you get started on something like this? And we have a lot of free resources. Even if you never used Data.World, you should go to a site that we built. We're a proud B Corporation. That means we're a for-profit corporation, but we have a strong social mission. We really care about doing this for the long term. We've been in the top 10% of all B corporations for the last 3 years. And one of the things that we launched is datapractices.org. And we got together some of the most famous data scientists in the world, and we said, hey, could we co-create essentially a manifesto for data practices to really regulate this industry and look for things like algorithmic bias and really think about the ethical implications of working with data. And we were successful in doing that. We co-created, we co-wrote the manifesto for data practices. It actually got more signatories in the first couple of years than the Agile Manifesto had in its first couple of years. If you come from a software background, you know how much the Agile Manifesto changed behavior. And we then worked with those same data scientists to say, okay, we've got the manifesto, all these people have signed it, now we actually need to teach people through courseware how to do this. So we released free courseware on datapractices.org. All of you in the room can use it. We use it with all of our customers when we go in and we train them on how to really effectively use our data catalog. We've got many case studies we could share with you, and one of the case studies is with the Mirum Agency, which is about a 1,500 person agency. It's part of WPP. We've been very successful at WPP overall, and this case study is pretty cool because it looks at how they use Tableau internally in conjunction with all of their customer work. And they use this to really collaborate at scale across the agency, allow all the business subject matter experts to come in. They also use Data.World in a customer-facing capability. They use us to deliver their client work. So if they produce beautiful data with Tableau by compiling different client data sources for different ad campaigns and the like they're doing, they can then share that very easily via Data.World. We work extremely well in distributed use cases with lots of offices or between customers and partners. And we'd be happy to share this case study with you. We really believe you should be able to rock your data tools. You spent all of that money on things like Tableau and all the data lakes that you built out, and there's Excel spreadsheets that have run rampant all over the company. And we think that you're not going to change behavior easily in terms of getting people to centralize around anything, whether it's a BI solution or anything else. That's why we just connected with everything. That slide that I showed you earlier of all of those different platforms, we're integrated with all of those. Actually, our community, the Data.World community, built over 2/3 of those integrations. And those integrations just continue to to come online over and over. We have a bunch of open APIs, and the community tends to drive a lot of that. But the data catalog, we really believe, should be at the center. And one of the exciting things for me as an entrepreneur is we get to carve out a new category in this space, this kind of massive data space of enterprise data catalogs. And we get to do it right. We get to do it in a way where we're naturally connected to everything. We're built from the very beginning of data.world on a knowledge graph. We're built with a consumer grade UI that you can put in front of anybody inside the company. And we do a lot of stuff with Tableau. Tableau was actually the very first partner that we had on the data community side. Many people from Tableau have used data.world from the very beginning of our launch back on July 11th of 2016. So how can you use it with Tableau? How can you use an enterprise data catalog like data.world? Well, first of all, you can spend a lot more time on high value analysis. One thing that data.world does that's very unique is it allows you to create things like data projects, where you can pull many different data sources in from many different sources, and it standardizes all on the knowledge graph and allows you to do federated queries across it, and then with a click of a button, visualize it in Tableau. Federated query is actually really difficult to do. This is like doing a query across your data lake to your spreadsheet to your Salesforce.com data, for example, and immediately be able to bring all that together via knowledge graph and do analysis on it, and then immediately visualize it in Tableau. It also really increases the impact of your analysis across the business. Data projects and data.world are something that managers use all the time, executives use all the time. It's very easy for someone to come in, ask questions, be able to see the insights you published and produced, and basically make decisions for the business. And you get a lot of credit for that because they see the people. Like, people are the very center of data.world. It's a very social and collaborative platform. And it allows you to very easily understand and trust your data. We use AI and machine learning, make it very easy to find data inside your organization. We make it as easy as searching on Google. It's a Google-like search interface. You can search across all the data sets. You can even search inside specific fields. And it has all the proper governance and all of that to be able to request access if you don't have access to that data. And it'll route it to the person immediately that can give you that access. One of the ways that we look at how this space is ultimately going to evolve, because we like to think like futurists, like where is this actually, what are the implications of data.world on the world? We saw the implications of Bazaar Voice. Back when we started that company in 2005, believe it or not, there were only 3 retailers in the entire United States who had customer reviews. Now customer reviews are ubiquitous across the world. So what does data.world's impact look like at scale? And we really think it's going to cause this revolution in mass collaboration around data. But the reality is that most people are probably at that infrastructure and tools phase of their business. Almost nobody actually has an enterprise data catalog today. It's a whole new category. Gartner just recently wrote a report saying that it's now the new must-have for organizations. But basically, we'll see that people roll out a catalog that'll allow them to more easily democratize access to data across their company. They'll start to roll out governance, and we have a number of governance features and more on the way. And then it'll lead to a semantic understanding of their data, and eventually really high level of reproducibility. Mirum actually has achieved that. Like, one of the things that happened at Mirum recently is they had big turnover because the founder of the company left to start a new business. It happens. And the team turned over as well. And one of the things that the CEO told me is, she said it was amazing how quickly we could ramp the new team, because all the context of their work, the data, the analyses they did, everything was in data.world, easily accessible for the new team. And so our level of ramp up time was just dramatically shortened because everything was in one place, even though they use Tableau and a bunch of tools. And then eventually it'll just lead to a living, breathing organization. This actually exists today. You could look at Airbnb, I referenced them earlier. over 50% of Airbnb's employees use an internally built data catalog that they built since employee number 5 of the company. So they've kind of done it the right way from the very beginning, but most companies aren't going to raise billions of dollars and be able to have the type of IT builds that they've had. But that is what it looks like at scale. It looks like that, where you get to dominate an industry like Airbnb is doing. So I'll just leave you with this. How will you create your next work of art? These are some other examples of things that have really moved me. So the first example is Dollar Street. This is by Gapminder. So you guys may be familiar with Gapminder and all the great TED Talks that Hans gave. This shows you exactly how people live in different parts of the world. And one of the things that it makes you realize if you go to Dollar Street is that we all have the same problems as human beings. We all have the same challenges. And when you really personalize things on a level where you look at a family making, $234 a month in Indonesia, and then you compare it to US family and the family photos, it's not all that different. It's really not all that different. So it really makes the world a lot smaller when you go on a site like that. The second example is from Reddit. In 72 hours, 90,000 people from Reddit came together to create on a pixel by pixel basis their favorite places. And this is an image that you can just zoom in, zoom in, zoom in, and it's really kind of an amazing example of mass collaboration in a very short period of time. And this third example is from Jon Snow. This is not the Jon Snow from Game of Thrones, but this was a famous scientist in the 1800s in England. He was trying to map the cholera outbreak, and he found that it was due to basically a rusty water supply in the city of London. And we actually have this hanging in the engineering department to really show, like, hey, this is the power of beautiful data. This is how meaningful data can be, that can literally save lives. All of you are on that journey. It's a super exciting moment in human history to be on this journey. We're on the cusp of a real data revolution. And I'll just leave you with a couple of things. Feel free to visit us at booth 831. We're really close to the Alteryx booth. That's pretty noticeable one. We're a much smaller company than Alteryx, so we don't have that size of booth. We're only a 4-year-old company, but we're a real proud company. We've got an amazing team. We just won our 4th annual Best Place to Work award in Austin, Texas, where we're based. As I mentioned, we've been in the top 10% of all B corporations for the last 3 years in a row. And at 3:15, we're giving away basically a $500 like Yeti Tundra cooler. You may ask, why Yeti, right? Yeti because we're friends with the CEO. That's also a proud Austin company. We're big Yeti fans. I have plenty of Yeti gear myself. We will ship it for you. All you need to do is, if you want to see a demo of Data.World, just come over at 3:15. My co-founder, John Loyens, who's our chief product officer, you can't miss him. He's like 6'5" and Canadian. Will be presenting over there, and we'll also be presenting at 5 as well. So we're giving away 2 Yeti coolers today. And then I'll leave you my personal contact information. This doesn't go to my assistant or anything else. Feel free to email me at brett@data.world. Also, if you go into data.world, I'm Data Brett on there. So feel free to follow me. And of course, I'm Data Brett on Twitter as well. So with that, thank you so much. And I'm happy to stick around and answer any questions. I know I can't do it with the headphones, so feel free to come up, and I'll see you at the booth. Thank you so much.